Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the One VCU Research Strategic Priorities Plan, RFA Q&A. Today, we are going to have some introductory remarks from some special guests, and then we'll be heading into our Q&A, which will be about 45 minutes long. So we'll give you some more instructions about how to submit your questions once our introductory remarks are over. And I just wanted to let everyone know that number one, we are recording the webinar and it will be posted on our funding website for these internal opportunities. And we will also be capturing all of the questions from this webinar, as well as the breakout rooms that start at 1 p.m. to put up as frequently asked questions on the website as well. So again, we will let you know how to submit your questions once our introductory remarks are over. And I would like to introduce our guests and hosts today. The first, we have Dr. Srirama Rao, who is our Vice President for Research and Innovation. Dr. Fotis Soteropoulos, who is the Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs. We also have the co-chairs of the Strategic Priorities Plan Advisory Council, Dr. Michael Donnenberg, Senior Associate Dean for Research and Research Training with the School of Medicine, as well as Kathleen Rudisil, Senior Associate Dean for Research and Faculty Affairs with the School of Education. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Rao to get us started.
Thank you, Melissa. First of all, I want to welcome you all to this briefing webinar on One VCU research funding. But before I do that, I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for your valuable contributions to research in all the fields across our campuses and making 2021 another productive year. As you noticed in the quarterly report that just went out last week, and as I stated, for those of you who listened in my State of the Research presentation at BOV on Friday, VCU has, again, we've had a banner year with impactful research and record external sponsored funding, actually 8% over last year and 34% since 2018. And really, this growth came from both our campuses and was carried out by you all. So having said that, and you've heard me say this many times, to maintain our current level of research activity, and more importantly, to accelerate our research, we have to strategically invest in our growing research enterprise. There's no other way around this. And this message has now been reiterated by President Rao. You have been hearing it more from Provost Soteropoulos, Carol Gray, Dr. Kellerman as well. So this message, you now have university leadership behind this overall messaging of advancing our research. In that context, I do want to thank the many faculty who were instrumental in developing the Strategic Research Priorities Plan, or what we now call One VCU Strategic Plan, One VCU Research Strategic Plan. And I had committed to you all that our strategic plan that has been developed by input of so many hundreds of you faculty and under the leadership of Associate Deans Kathy Rudisil and Michael Donnenberg and many, that we would back it up by a implementation plan and with financial investments. And as you may have heard, those of you who participated just a few weeks back, the president and I announced that we would be making these commitments. And I'm really pleased that under the continued leadership of Senior Associate Deans Kathy Rudisil and Michael Donnenberg and Lisa Balance, and the entire advisory council, so many of you who are on this council, have now come up with these really fun, exciting opportunities that will help propel our research in all disciplines, at an individual faculty level to teams who will truly be able to leverage our strength in these 4 key initiatives that we know, and address societal grand challenges and ultimately leading to extramural funding in all these areas. So I want to thank actually some of the OVPRI folks who were instrumental: Lisa, John, Melissa, Josh, Gianna, Christina, AJ, Jim, Emily, and Tina in helping put the framework of these RFAs, because that's so important. And these RFAs are truly aimed at investing in our faculty, trainees, and further strengthening our research here on all campuses, including our Qatar campus. And I know through this webinar today, you'll be getting into the details of the various funding opportunities, so I won't say more about that. But I will say this: as we advance our research enterprise, I want to state this very clearly, that a key and important partner is Provost Sideropoulos. We both are committed to doing all that we can to build our academic excellence at VCU. And as you will hear from him, and you have heard probably many times now, he's a key proponent of transdisciplinary research, and in all fields, including arts and humanities. So while you'll be hearing from him in the coming year, today he's going to be sharing some exciting additional research funding opportunities from the Provost's office that we will be partnering with them. And so with that said, I want to now turn it over to Fotis, our new provost here, to share his welcome and additional funding information. Provost.
Thank you, Sriram, for the kind introduction, and thank you all for joining us here today. It's a special pleasure for me to join this as a kind of special guest. This is a very important day for all of us at VCU, under the leadership of Vice President Rao and his team, and the support from our president and our university. This investment in research grants that advance research, societal impact through transdisciplinary research is really, really important. It will lead to not only our university distinguish itself by developing solutions to important problems that society faces, but also it will help us grow our research expenditures, increase our prestige, and so on, and the success of all of you, of our faculty and our students alike. However, it is important to recognize that research is a continuum in a university as diverse as VCU is. Research is not only restricted to initiatives and projects and proposals that could lead to research funding or big transdisciplinary research initiatives and so on, but there is important work that is happening at the individual faculty member level. And some of them, they may not even generate any funding, but they do generate excellent scholarship, creative works, art making. And we want to recognize, to make it very, very clear that we really recognize and value as an institution all our faculty and the research they do across the entire spectrum of what research and scholarship is. For that, it is a great pleasure today to give you the very first announcement. You're going to get more details about this, that my office, in partnership with the Vice President for Research, Sriram Rao, we will be announcing a special seed grant. This is completely different from what has already been announced. It's going to be a seed grant program that will be focusing on investigators and faculty in the humanities, social sciences, and the arts. And it will support projects with the only expectation: excellent scholarship, art making, and creative works. That doesn't mean that the faculty who choose to submit applications for this program are not eligible to apply for the other seed grants. Of course, as a matter of fact, this is really the beauty of having a university like VCU, that we can support the entire diversity, the entire spectrum of activity of our faculty. And it is in fact my expectation that and my hope that many of you, on one hand, you'll pursue in excellence in scholarship and art making and creative works, but then get infected by this bug of transdisciplinary research and join teams with other colleagues to be part of these bigger grant activities. But nevertheless, this new program that we'll be announcing is going to be a total of $100,000 that it's supported jointly by my office and Sriram Rao's office. You are going to get an RFA, I think by February 1st, you're going to get the details about this. And as I said, the distinguished characteristic is that it's going to be the only expectation from this, the only return on our investment will be excellent scholarship and creative works and art making. It's going to be, the return on investment is elevating the prestige of our university, the success of our faculty, and their impact in scholarship and creative art making. So that's important, and it is our intention to move forward, to continue this in years to come. It's very, very important, I think, that we have a clear, distinct funding program that recognizes that research is not just the one that will lead to the NIH, the NSF grants, the DOE grants, and so on. Another opportunity that we will be announcing, actually there are a couple of additional programs that I want to give you a sneak preview also. The university has received funding from the Cctr DuPont Fund under the leadership of Dr. Tomiki Legrand to support scholarly activity focused on first-generation student success, including diversity, underrepresented perspectives, and removing student success barriers. These grant funds are of the order of $5,000, and they will support cross-disciplinary research pertinent to the success of first-generation students. Applications for this will be announced. The request for applications will be issued soon, I think, or it has been issued already. I think it went out yesterday, is my understanding. So please make sure you watch for it and you take advantage. Now, in addition to that, my office will also be providing additional funding in a series of separate grants focusing on student success research. This is research to advance student success. The objective of these grants will be to support the university's priority on student success. What better way to think of research projects that could actually directly impact our students and at the same time lead to significant activities in funding and so on. So we will be launching a new sort of institutional grant funds to support scholarly activities focused on improving student success across diverse populations. The details and the RFA will be shared on February 1st, 2022. So please stay tuned. A lot of exciting initiatives coming up. And I'm really cannot wait to read, to know about all the great ideas will be submitted and the work that will come out of this. Thank you.
Melissa, should I go next and just?
Yes.
Okay. Well, everyone, I didn't want to take too much time, so I put everything I was going to say in the chat, apparently. I apologize for that mistake. Basically, what we just wanted to do was give you a few high points about these funding opportunities that were announced on December 1st. First, just reiterating the primary purposes of the funding opportunities: to offer infrastructure for new research opportunities for investigators, and to remind you to think about a return on investment. So it's not just about the one project that you're proposing, but rather where this is going to take you, where this is going to take the university, and how this is going to have you poised for future work, you and your collaborators and the students that you're working with. Remember also that these projects are intended to be projects that we want students and trainees to be involved in. We really want to emphasize that that's an important component of this. In addition, it's very important to have diverse teams, teams that not only are interdisciplinary, but also include individuals from underrepresented minority groups. So these would be individuals that we don't normally see represented in the disciplines that are included. So in academia, for example, groups that we don't normally see doing research in academia, for example. Also, individuals with lived experiences that can contribute to the research in a meaningful way. So individuals with disabilities, for example. This is really critical because it has an impact on the yield that we will have for public effect. Also, I think Lisa Balance put in the chat, but you can use a website that Lisa put in the chat, eva.vcu.edu, to look for collaborators for people working in similar areas. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael, who's going to touch on each of the initiatives and then invite you to go to breakout rooms.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Sriram and Fotis, for those terrific opening remarks and the exciting new announcements about supporting students and supporting creative activity outside the what some people might consider to be research. It's really exciting, and it kind of brings together what makes the One VCU research strategic priority plans so exciting. It's because I think the hard work of over 100 faculty who put it together really defines who we are as VCU, captures it beautifully. And it's all under the umbrella of improving the human condition, which if that's not an inspiring mission, I'm not sure what might be. So I want to remind everyone that these new initiatives ask you to go back to the priority plan and identify how the work you will propose brings us forward toward the foundation and the initiatives in our strategic priority plan. So it all is supported by a foundation, which is societal impact through a culture of collaboration that touches on issues of training, diversity, faculty support, faculty rewards, promotion and tenure around research and creative activity. And then that foundation supports 4 unique initiatives. One is enriching the human experience. And by enriching the human experience, we mean apply creative expression, critical analysis, and advancements in knowledge and technology to enhance individual quality of life and social infrastructure. The second initiative is establishing a just and equitable society, which is to commit to identifying injustices and finding solutions to the most difficult social problems. To build a better world recognizes that change begins with us. Next is optimizing health. Use trans, multi, and interdisciplinary approaches at scales from molecules to populations in search of new ways to preserve and restore human health. And finally, supporting sustainable energy environments, create evidence-based solutions that contribute to a better future in a rapidly changing natural world. So the OVPRI website has the full One VCU Research Strategic Priority Plan. You can click on the foundations, you can click on each of the initiatives. They list specific goals and tasks to help us reach those initiatives. And it's those individual subsections that you will respond to when you put in one of our new grant opportunities. And you can respond to more than one. I mean, that's part of transdisciplinary research. And by optimizing health, you may also be creating a more just society. And that's fabulous, of course. So I think that successful proposals may play more than just lip service to our strategic priority plan, because we need to achieve what we promised to achieve in this plan. And that's what we intend to do with these generous new funding opportunities. Back to you, Melissa.
Thank you, Dr. Donnenberg. I want to thank Dr. Rao and Provost Soteropoulos for joining us. And now we will begin with our Q&A session. So thank you very much to both of you, and Dr. Donnenberg and Dr. Rudisill will be with us for a little while. And now I will go ahead and just do a bit of housekeeping before we head into the Q&A. So we are asking that you post your questions into the question and answer box. We did get one via chat that we will handle first while Dr. Rao and Dr. Soteropoulos were speaking. And we have about 40 minutes for the Q&A session, and we'll work to answer as many as possible in that time in this main session. We're also having the smaller breakout sessions, and Gianna is going to put the full agenda document in to the chat box so that you can download it, so that you can have the links if you don't have them already for the 4 breakout sessions. So each one of those will have its own link. If you would like to stay in the main Zoom webinar for a discussion on culture of collaboration, you can also do that as well. So there are 4 additional links, and if you want to do culture of collaboration, please stay in the main room once we get to the end of this Q&A portion. I just want to make sure again that you know that all of the breakout sessions will also be recorded. So we will have the chat and the recording from each of those so that we can make sure that we get to all of the questions. If we do not get to your question during this webinar or during the breakouts, we will be posting all of the ones that we get as an FAQ onto the funding website. We are hoping to get that done by early next week, but if not, it'll be right after we come back. But we should be able to get it done by next Tuesday. So I wanted to just make sure that everyone was aware of that. And if you want to send a question to me directly about something about your specific application, feel free to do that as well. And I will be answering those questions over break because I realize that with the winter break that it's a bit difficult getting these done in time for February if you're applying to Accelerate. So with that, I would like to go ahead and start with our first question. And the first question that we had is that a driving force behind the whole initiative is to promote collaboration and interdisciplinary research. While some agencies may not want 2 PIs from VCU, plenty do, and the extramural proposal can be different, likely be different than what VCU funds, which was the answer to the question that came in, that many of the internal funding opportunities ask for multiple PIs, but quite a few agencies don't, such as the Department of Energy and the Department of Defense. So the question was, is there any reason for requiring faculty to have multiple PIs from VCU for the new internal seed grants? So the answer was put into the chat by Dr. Ryan. Dr. Donnenberg, Dr. Rudisell, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I thought I might. Thank you, John, for responding to that question. I'd like to add a couple of things. First of all, the expanded Quest Fund, which is one of the 3 things we recently announced on December 1, does not require collaboration. So what used to be known as PERC is now Quest. The expanded Quest includes more money, and more money that will go further because the required match from your unit is now smaller. So we're hoping that we'll be able to get more units involved who are able to meet the matching request for more grants. So, but on the other hand, 2 of the 3, the 2 brand new ones, do require interdisciplinary work. One is more cross-disciplinary than the other. The breakthrough, the Accelerate Fund, you can be from the same unit, like the same school or college, whereas the breakthrough is going to require more than one. So the reason is because the most impactful research we've learned over the last couple of decades is research that does involve people from far different fields. And the funding agencies you mentioned also recognize that. They just want the people to come from different institutions. What I think is what the hope is that if you have an internal collaborator and both can benefit from an interdisciplinary grant, then perhaps you could both go on to submit to external agencies for future funding. Perhaps other things will come from it, papers that will strengthen your chances of getting those grants. So we predict that a lot of good will come from this requirement.
Kathy, did you want to add anything further? Okay, our next question, are faculty at the instructor level eligible to apply to each of these grants, particularly for the basic sciences? And the answer to that is yes. Anybody who has a full-time appointment with VCU within a department is eligible to apply for these, and that would include instructors. Our next question is going to be for John. How can faculty make their research more searchable in EVR for their colleagues looking for collaborators?
How can faculty make their research more searchable? Oh, okay. So most of you, probably all of you, will be new to EVR, which is Explore VCU Research. It's a brand new site. We've only done a soft launch with biology and chemistry. I'm surveying them right this minute to try to get feedback. But the site's up and running. It's easy. Just go to evr.vcu.edu. If you type in your name, you should already have a page there that has your funded grants and your publications. Now, for the moment, we're bringing in data from PubMed and Web of Science. That does a great job for biomedical research and for the physical sciences. It does not do a great job. It does okay for social sciences because of Web of Science. If you're in the humanities and the arts, we know it isn't capturing everything, and I'm working on that. We're trying to get access to another database that should capture more of that. And the contract for doing that is underway right this minute. But right this minute, I don't have access. You have to buy access to the data. So go to evr.vcu.edu, type in your name. You should already have a page there. From there, and there's, if you scroll down the bottom, there's a link that says help or whatever that is. And there's a short video there made by yours truly that'll tell you how to edit your site. But it's actually really easy. When you go to your page, top right, you'll see login. Log in with your standard VC login. Everywhere you see a pencil, click and you can add whatever you want. If you have publications you want to add that aren't on there that we missed because of the databases we're using, click manage my publications and you can import them. And I'll tell you how to do it on the short video. So it's pretty passive. It updates every single day. And so if you publish something or you get a grant funded that's at VCU in the RAM system, we have it already. At least that's the goal. And if you're unhappy with it, write me, jjryan@vcu.edu. I can take it. Go ahead. We good, Melissa? I feel like I knocked that one out the park. I would like people to, if you want feedback, bring it to me. Thank you.
That's why I sent it your way. So our next question is, will these funds be biased to the junior or unestablished faculty? The answer to that is no. We are looking for the multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary teams. And then Quest can also be single investigator, as well as the new humanities grants that are in collaboration with the provost office can also be single investigator. We are asking that we do have diverse teams that include more students, and I'm going to have Kathy and Michael expound on this a little bit more, as well as early investigators and other under minority faculty members that would be included in it as well as the cross-campus collaborations. So did you want to expand on that a little bit further, Kathy or Michael, either one?
I'll just say that I'm sorry I have to step out, but I think that you've answered that very thoroughly, Melissa, and I will let Michael take it from here. I apologize that I have to go to another meeting, but if there are questions I can answer later, just send them to me. Okay.
Thank you, Kathy. Dr. Donnenberg, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I agree. Covered thoroughly.
Our next question is, if we currently have funding from other internal sources, like the Cctr program, are we still permitted to submit grants to these programs? The answer to that is yes, with one caveat. So you are allowed to apply to all three of the programs. The only one that does have a restriction on it is the Quest Fund. So Quest used to be called the Presidential Research Quest Fund. And there was a caveat on that, that if you had one within the last 3 years for senior investigators, which was anybody who was tenured, or if you had one in the past 4 years, which was for early stage investigators, which was normally assistant professors, then you could not apply again until that time period was up. The only other caveat for a quest is that you can't have more than 2 quests in the same 10-year period. So anyone who had a presidential research quest fund in the past is still under those restrictions. But otherwise, you're allowed to apply to all 3 of these, plus the new one that are coming in collaboration with the Provost's office, or 1 or 2, however it is that you would like to do that, as long as you don't fall under those quest restrictions. And our next question could you briefly describe the review process of these internal funding proposals? John and Michael, did you want to talk about that?
John? Point to me, good, okay. So yeah, thank you for the question. The review process, it's an internal review. Our office, Melissa, Josh, and I will be selecting reviewers who are at VCU and are not in conflict. And then there's a scoring rubric. We've used it for lots of internal submissions before, so it'd be very similar to that, where the application is scored based on its impact and its ability to address the goals of the strategic research plan. Those scores will then be forwarded to a committee that is made up, it's what we call the Strategic Research Plans Advisory Council. And the Advisory Council, which is actually, the names of that are published on our website, they will take a look at the overall scores and the rankings and decide which ones they wish to push forward for funding. And then Vice President Rao has the final say-so over which ones get funded using the advice of the Advisory Council. So does that make sense? It works a lot like an IH, an initial review group that forwards it on to council, that forwards it on to the next layer, and then it's funded. Okay.
Nice, John.
Thanks.
The only one that is a little bit different is the Quest Fund.
Thank you.
You want me to mention that?
Sure.
Yeah, so we asked that individual units prioritize the Quest funds. So mostly that would be done by either committees or the Associate Dean for Research in the college or the school. And then the executive committee for that is the REDAC, the Research Advisory and Development Advisory Council. And so they meet annually to finalize the scoring, the funding for the Quest funds.
And at this time, the funding that's coming from the Provost's office is still under works. So I don't have any information on how that will be reviewed yet, but that information will be in the RFA that comes out February 1st. Okay. Our next question is, what about eligibility for research scientists, staff within departments and not faculty? Research scientists, we are also counting in the faculty. So research scientists, as well as clinician researchers and faculty members, instructors are eligible to apply for this funding. That is our last question. Is that all the questions that, here we go. Our next question is, can you talk about the differences between the program categories, small or mid-scale for Accelerate versus large scale for breakthroughs? For instance, how can one determine which category best fits their project? So for that one, I will pull up the chart that we have been using for the different funds. And Dr. Donnenberg, Dr. Ryan, if you want to kind of go through the differences between each and how you can figure out what the best one is for your project.
So we're going to see that chart?
Yeah,
great. So I'll just start by saying the Accelerate is aptly named because we want to get some money out to researchers who are doing interdisciplinary research as soon as possible. So this was planned as projects that are ready to go. The application is simpler. It's only a couple of pages, and the due date is sooner. So one consideration is, are you ready by February 1 to be able to submit your proposal? The breakthrough, we're asking that people submit a letter of intent so that John can have the difficult task of identifying reviewers made just a little bit easier. But it's a bigger proposal and it's a bigger grant. From the health sector, I would think of breakthroughs as things that are likely to yield at least multi-investigator, if not center or program project kind of grants. They're like more than one thing put together that, around a theme. They can be, lead to multi-PI grants, not necessarily giant sized grants, but you're thinking big with a breakthrough. With Accelerate, you're thinking maybe a little more modestly, but definitely for collaborative purposes. So Melissa, would you mind making it wider? Because the font is, yeah, that's good. So the problem now, of course, is that we can view the deadlines and the start dates and how long they go for. The breakthroughs are a little bit longer in funding as well as more money. And we know about the eligibility, I believe. So there you go. So this comparison is also available to everyone. Is that the case, Melissa?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is actually page 2 in the RFA.
Yeah.
So if you go to the funding website and you download the RFA, this will be on page 2 of that. And then when you scroll down through, starting on page 3, you will get to all of the particular funds by name, and it will go through the purpose, the distinct eligibility, the award periods, the deadline, the exact format that you have to follow, as well as what the review process is for each of these, as well as the review criteria. So that will be in there for each one of these funds. I do not have one for the humanities funding that's going to come out yet. So like I said, that's still under development. So we will need to have that one out on February 1st. Dr. Donnenberg and Dr. Ryan, did you want to talk a little bit more about the eligibility with the team makeups and the diversity and including students, early investigators, and that as well?
Yeah, before I let John take that, I'd just like to say that there's not a strong dividing line, especially between Accelerate and Breakthrough. So you could go for both. You could go for either. With a lot of projects could do that, but the eligibility is slightly different. Once again, the Breakthrough requires investigators from different schools or colleges. John,
Okay.
you want to take? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like to talk about this a little bit. Y'all, when you're in the classroom, I bet you said the same words I've had when you're talking to students about the exam that's coming up. And I tell them, a human being is writing this exam. Think like that person. All right, your reviewers are human beings. So they've been told, we want to see research projects that promote collaboration and will address the goals of the strategic research plan. If you haven't memorized that plan, it's okay. Just Google VCU strategic research plan. You'll find it. The RFA is right there. So take a look at the 4 major goals of strategic research plan and think, how does my research fit that? And how can I do that through collaboration? Yes, you're probably uncomfortable with the idea that you now have to go find a collaborator that you haven't worked with before. We're trying to push you out of your box. The goal of this is to promote collaboration. If you're applying for Accelerate, your collaborator can be in the same school, same college. So 2 people report into the same dean. One question that's coming up in the chat is, can I apply as an investigator if I'm an adjunct faculty? You have to be full-time faculty to be considered. So adjunct, as I understand it, is not eligible, and I'm sorry about that. But do you want to, Melissa, you want to correct me on that?
Yes, that is correct. If you wanted to be part of a team as a collaborator, that would be fine, but the PIs on these grants do have to be from VCU and have a full-time faculty appointment, research faculty appointment, or clinician researcher.
Yeah, so if you're not full-time, you could be a member of the team. You might be a paid member of the team because allowed in the budget is to pay members of the team. And we can go into that, it's in the RFA. But what I want you to think about is that for Accelerate, you need somebody to collaborate with. They can be in your school, they certainly don't have to be. For Breakthrough, you need somebody who's outside of your unit, so not reporting to your dean, reports to a different dean. But think harder about what it is that the reviewers and the advisory council are being asked to gauge. They're going to go back to the vice president and say, hey, you know how you gave us millions of dollars and you want us to tell you how to spend it? Well, here are the grants that we think will really be game changers. Here are the things that we found exciting. Here are the ones where they're bridging an area where we know there's a big gap in knowledge that could be addressed by this application. And in fact, we're good at it here. We should be doing this. So you want them to be excited by your proposal, and you want that proposal to promote collaboration. Now, I'm talking specifically about Accelerate and Breakthrough. Quest, which you've always called PERC up until recently, we're calling it Quest now, can be single investigator. And the only thing it really shares with this is that we do want it to address the strategic plan. While it can be a single investigator, collaborative proposals are certainly welcome and would make it stronger. And for all of these, we want to see what will the project accomplish? How can you drive your field forward? And remember, we're talking about all 4 goals of the strategic plan, which addresses practically everything you can think of, every discipline on campus. And how would you use that to make progress in terms of further funding, major scholarly outputs, or increasing the prominence of VCU, which are the big returns on investment that we want? Does that answer that? Any other thing you want to add? Michael? The other thing was by multi-PIs, it required that all PIs are from VCU. I'm sorry, Melissa, I meant to grab that one on the way. Yes, so the PIs have to be at VCU. We're not, because it's in-house money, we're not funding PIs that are outside of VCU. They can be on as a collaborator, that's fine. So if you want them to be part of the project, so that you grow that project and you're going to apply to an outside agency later, that's great. We'd love to have that. But they will not, they're not eligible to be a PI on this proposal. These are all good questions. Keep them coming.
The next one that we had, it appears I'm not eligible for any of the funding since I'm an adjunct faculty member. Does my status also exclude me for collaborative efforts with eligible faculty? And the answer to that is no. You cannot serve as a principal investigator on one of these grants. However, it does not exclude you from collaborating on a team with other faculty members that would serve as PI. Okay, I do not have any more questions in our chat box at the moment, or in our Q&A box rather. So I wanted to go over a couple of things that, oh, actually we just got another one. As adjunct faculty, would you suggest I take my proposals to full-time faculty or just turn over full direction? I'm going to give that to Dr. Donnenberg or Dr. Ryan.
Can I have it? Okay. Get ready, people. Dr. Latham. I've had 3 or 4 comments now about why am I not eligible or why do I have to collaborate? Let me explain. The vice president is giving away millions of dollars in funding. So I'm not going to go back to him and tell him anything negative about that. We want you to collaborate. If you're an adjunct faculty member, I'm sorry, not eligible. You have to be full-time reporting to a dean. And if you can do that, if you're adjunct and you want to do it as a collaborative manner, that would be great. But you do have to be a full-time faculty member of any rank to be eligible to serve as the PI, not to be on the grant, but to serve as the PI.
Yes. If awarded a perk as a, oh, sorry.
So I think to be more direct about the question, if you have a great idea and you're an adjunct faculty, yes, you should be looking for people with whom to collaborate. and share your idea and find people who could serve as the PI, and then that person is likely to add to your idea as well, and perhaps make it even stronger. So I'd encourage you to do that.
Just want to hear, Melissa, if awarded a perk or a quest as a co-investigator, co-PI, will this fall under the wait period? And I want to say, yes, it does. If you're PI, either sole PI or co-PI, you have to wait 3 years before you can reapply as a non-tenured faculty, so assistant professor, right?
Yep.
Okay, and then 4 if you're tenured.
But it does not apply if you were a co-investigator, only if you were a co-lead on the PERC proposal in the past 10 years.
Yeah.
So you would have to wait. Now, if your waiting period is over and you had a quest either 4 years ago, if you were an assistant professor, or 3 years ago, if you were an assistant professor, or 4 years ago, if you were tenured, then you can go ahead and apply again, because you can have 2 within 10 years. And again, it does not apply to collaborators, and it does not apply to co-investigators. It's only if you were a co-PI, a PI or a co-PI on a previous PERC quest. And there were a couple other, are there emphasis or opportunities for collaborating with the Global Education Office international initiatives?
Do you want me to take that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a really neat question, Dr. Burnett. Thank you for putting that in the chat. I would say yes, while we are only funding PIs that are at VCU, collaborating with GEO or an international initiative that addresses the 4 major aims, and I'm looking at these right now. So enriching the human experience, achieving a just and equitable society, optimizing health, sustaining energy and the environment. All of those have international impact, right? So I could certainly think of how you might have a project that is international. The project itself is international and may be very high impact, but it's done here at VCU. We would be thrilled to see that. So yeah, please strongly consider applications like that.
There's a follow-up about finding collaborators if you're an adjunct faculty member. The question is, how do you offer your support to PIs as an adjunct, whether with your own research efforts or theirs? Is there a platform for that where they can connect with other faculty members? In other words, how do you go about finding the collaboration opportunities with those that would be eligible to apply?
Absolutely. So thank you, Dr. Black. Please go to evr.vcu.edu. Type in your research area on the main search bar. It'll pull up a bunch of hits, hopefully. I just typed in kidney disease out of curiosity. It turns out we have 80 people here that work on that. On the right-hand side, it'll categorize the hits by people or by publications or other, there's a couple of other qualifications there. When you click on people, it will tell you what rank are they. And so you can classify just professors or just associate professors, and take a look and see who's there. And when you click on them, you should see their email address, and you're certainly have their name, so they're not too hard to track down. And if you are struggling with that, if you're struggling with finding a collaborator, that's one more thing that the Office of Research Development, Melissa and Josh and I, that's what we do. So if you're struggling, please contact me, and we'll do what we can to help find you a collaborator. And we would love to see adjunct faculty become full-time faculty. I think that would be fantastic. So if we can help you with that, in terms of promoting your research so that that's an outcome, I would be thrilled to see that happen. Dr. Karasik is in with, how do we get listed under a specific area? And Lane, I think you mean on evr.vcu.edu. It goes off keywords. And if it's not putting you, if it's not hitting the keywords it's finding in your pubs the way you want, please let me know. The site's been up for 1 month, so I'm probably still finding glitches in it. I swear we tried really hard. We've been testing this thing for months and months. But because it's brand new and we haven't even finished the soft launch yet, you're gonna find things you don't like about it. Write me and tell me, I'll fix them. I'm still working with the programmer. Thank you very much. Should you put the name of the areas and the keywords? Yeah. So yes, you can. And you can log in when you find your page, log in and you can edit it quite a bit. There's quite a bit you can do in there. But the keywords are generated by Web of Science, and they're based on keywords that it finds in your publications off that site, which is big. Web of Science captures a lot of data. We're out of questions again.
Yeah, we are.
Should we move on to breakout rooms, Melissa, or?
We actually have about 10 minutes. There's a couple of things that I did want to note that are new around applying and also with the Quest Fund as well. So in the past, Quest, when it was the Presidential Research Quest Fund, you had to have a 40% cost share from your school or your college, and 60% came from the Quest Fund. That has been changed, and you now have to have a 25% cost share from your school or your college, and then a 75% of the money for the grant will come from the actual fund. So that has changed. So there is less of a cost share from your school or college, and 75% will come from the fund, which is larger than usual. Also for that one, it's been expanded. So the amount of money that would come from the institution was $500,000. Now it's expanded to $750,000, which you can also see in the RFA. So with 25% cost share from your schools, it would be about $1 million in funding. So we're hoping that will help schools and colleges to fund more of these, with more of the money coming from the fund, and a little bit less of the contribution that comes from the school or college. The second thing that I wanted to note is these will be submitted via Ramspot. The Ramspot internal opportunities, which you should be familiar with if you've done limited submissions, or if you've submitted the perks in the past, which are now Quest. One of the differences this year, though, is that we will be routing those electronically. So you don't have to do the endorsements form for any of these grants. They will be routed electronically, similar, not exactly the same, but similarly to how the budgets and signatures are done for your external grants. And we have another question. Are there expectations on what level of follow-on funding would be after a seed grant, such as how large of a national federal funded grant would be expected after the internal funding is completed? Dr. Ryan, Dr. Donnenberg, you want to take that one for me?
Can I have it, Michael?
You might guess.
Dr. Karasik and I have been going back and forth for a while now. So
Yeah, you guys should have coffee, I think.
I'm telling you, yeah. So no, actually, Lane, you're asking fantastic questions. I really appreciate it. So this is a really good point. So what is the return on investment that we're looking for? That is going to be field specific. So think about it. If you're in biomedicine, you're in engineering, you know who your major federal agencies are, and we want you to apply to them. Okay, that doesn't mean it has to be a gigantic grant, but we want to bring the outcomes of this, the way we're going to go back to the Board of Visitors and say, hey, we spent millions of dollars of your money. Are you cool with that? How did that go? We want to tell them, yeah, that money, not only did it increase the overall funding base of the university, which raises all boats, okay, but it also increased the stature of the university by what we accomplished. So in your field, you know what those road signs are. We want you to go for federal funding from a major agency, and we want you to publish in good journals and help raise the status of the university. So there's not a dollar sign set on that, but think about it. If you are reviewing this application and in the application it says, what's your future goal? What would you want to see as a reviewer? Okay, so put yourself in the reviewer's shoes. You want to see they've really thought through this. When this project is over in 18 months or 2 years, they've already got a goal in mind of what they're chasing. And they can articulate, they can paint a mental postcard of what that goal looks like. They have an idea for the agency. Maybe they even know about, I don't know, maybe there's an RFA coming up, or there's some particular area that's really hot at the National Science Foundation or whatever. Tell us that in the application. So you should be selling it by what the end product will look like and why that's going to make things better here. Melissa or Michael, you want to add to that?
No, that's exactly what I would have said. Well, not exactly. That includes everything I would have said.
I can never say anything exactly like Dr. Donnerberg. Fikria's on. There was a question on adjuncts serving as a collaborator on a quest. Can they budget their research effort? Okay, so Melissa, you want to?
That's a Melissa question, definitely.
I think I can get it right, but I'm going to go to Melissa first.
Yes, you can budget your effort. We cannot pay outside faculty members, anyone who's outside of the VCU universe. However, if you are an adjunct, the only thing you can't do is serve as a PI. So if you are serving as a collaborator, you are allowed to get paid on the grant for your effort, or you can. The other thing that we're also doing is documenting the in-kind effort as well, so that you will get credit for the effort that you put in on the research, even if you're an unpaid collaborator. So both of those are allowed. So part-time faculty just cannot serve as PIs, but we really are looking for collaboration on all levels. So that is possible. Okay, we have 3 minutes left before we are going to take a short 5-minute break, and then we're going to head into our breakout rooms. We have, one more. Can internal funds be used for core fees? Yes.
Please do. Spend
Yes.
that money here. It spends over and over again. It's a local economy.
Yeah.
Man, Lane is on fire today, y'all. He has all the good questions. This is impressive.
And if you have any particular, what about centers such as within the College of Engineering?
Yep.
Yes, yes. If you have any specific questions on any of your budgeting or eligibility questions, things like that, feel free to send them in my direction or John's direction, and we will get back to you. And then if it's not totally specific to your projects, we'll add it to the FAQ if you think of something after this. So now if we don't have any further questions, we're going to go ahead and take about a 5-minute break.